What would I do without you? Chapter 4.
That summer arrived not a moment too soon. I was certain that my new group of friends would fill my vacation with swimming parties, fishing trips to the lake, cookouts, and movies. But all it took was one day to change everything for me. I called up the gang to see if they wanted to do something, because anything was better than being stuck at home. The day was perfectly hot. Our South Texas border town had not hit three-digit temperatures yet. Although we could not decide what to do, everyone was for getting together. I suggested we hang out at the lake for a while. It was a perfect day to play in the sun and water. I coordinated meeting at Sam's house so her mother could drive us there in their Suburban. However, I was the last one to arrive because mom wanted me to clean my room. I could tell that they were a little upset when I spotted them outside of Sam's house, obviously waiting on me. Thanks, Dad, I said as I got out of the car, immediately taking in that everyone's eyes were on me. Sorry, guys, Mom wanted me to do stuff at the house before I left. Well, do you think you could have taken any longer? James asked. I said I was sorry. I replied, trying to keep my tone calm, even though I felt a twinge of irritation. Okay, guys, that's enough. Let's get going, said Sam, essentially shutting us up. While we piled into the Suburban, Sam proudly explained that her mom had packed a basket of snacks and drinks to have while at the lake. She also pointed out the big bottle of sunblock. When we arrived at the lake, we jumped out of the Suburban as quickly as we could and yippied out our rushed goodbyes and thank yous to Sam's mom. I grabbed the basket because I was already hungry. Okay, guys, let's find a spot, said James. Yeah, let's walk around and see what's free, said Mary as she looked out into the open areas. We trekked for about half an hour until we spotted an empty concrete table covered by a tin roof. I trotted over to it and placed the basket on the table. Then James pulled out the sunblock. I'm jumping in the water. Will someone help me with the sunblock? James asked the crowd. Sure, said Melissa as she extended her hand. Let's all get in, said Aaron as he and I locked eyes. Since we all agreed, the sunblock was passed around. Before I knew it, everyone except Aaron and I were already in the water. Aaron grabbed his backpack and pulled out a new bottle of sunblock. Would you? He asked as he handed me the bottle. I can't reach the middle of my back. Sure, pass it over. I squeezed some of the cream on my hand, and with an eagerness that I could not understand, I began smoothing it on his back. I was about 4 inches taller than him and probably about 20 pounds heavier. I was a strong young man and knew how good I looked. I normally caught girls looking at me, but that never affected me the way this precious moment was overwhelming me. I was thrilled to touch Aaron's toned body. Mine was not as cut or athletic as his, and I felt like I was dreaming as I ran my hands down his back and along his sides. I went from simply applying the cream to feeling his body with my fingertips. I was fascinated by the smooth and hairless back. Seconds turned into minutes as I lost myself in the motions. I ran my fingers along his shoulder blades, down to his sides, and slowed down when I felt his ribcage. I closed my eyes and breathed slowly as I took in everything I was feeling. It was as if my fingertips were a doorway to my heart and soul. I had never experienced these feelings and desires before. It was all new to me, and it felt like a ton of bricks hitting me right in the chest. Hey, are you guys coming in? I heard James calling out to us from the water. The abruptness of his voice snapped me back to reality, but not before Aaron turned around. I felt it with my hands before I opened my eyes. When I did, we were facing each other, and my hands were on him. His heartbeat was palpable through his chest, which rose and fell deeply with each measured breath he took. I was about to be lost in his blue eyes as I looked down into them when he broke the moment. What's going on? Asked Aaron. He struggled to control himself as he looked down at my hands on his chest. I noticed that Aaron was as affected as I was. I don't. Nothing. Nothing. Is this good? Is that enough cream? I asked, trying to sound calm. Yeah, it's good. Thanks. Aaron responded with nothing other than normal teenage apathy after clearing his throat. His voice said one thing. However, his eyes expressed something more. Still, he turned and headed towards the lake, and all I could do was watch him as he walked away. My eyes took in his body from head to toe, and I admired his flexing muscles. I snapped out of my trance and forced myself to act normal as I followed him towards the lake. On the shore, we observed a piece of rope tied to a tree branch that stuck out over the water. Melissa found a small plank of plywood that she fashioned into a seat and tied it to the end of the rope so we could swing ourselves over the lake and jump into the murky water. We played games and swam for what seemed like hours. When we were all hungry, we trudged over to the table. As I reached over to grab a sandwich, Aaron sat down beside me. "Did you have fun today, Isaac?" He asked me as I tipped the basket to peer into it. He said it so quietly that the girls arguing with James didn't hear us. I furrowed my brow, not understanding where these questions were headed. "Yeah, didn't you? I'm also really tired from swimming." "I'm feeling a little tired too," he paused as I looked over at him. I saw his eyes rove the group before he quietly asked me, "Hey, do you want to hang out at my house tonight? Maybe we can rent some movies and order a pizza or something." He did not look at me as he was saying this, and I could tell that he was trying to keep his voice low. "Yeah, sure, that sounds like a good idea, but I need to ask for permission. Do you think we could find a phone booth here at the lake?" I couldn't understand why I felt so excited, so I also kept my voice low. "You can use my father's cell phone later if you want. He lent it to me in case of an emergency or if I just needed something." He opened the side pocket of his backpack and pulled out a small blue cell phone by the antenna. Once he shoved it back in, I suddenly felt so aware and confused about why I too felt the need to whisper that I assented to it quickly, then bit into a sandwich. I ate 3 sandwiches out of sheer nerves. The group sat at the table for over an hour and talked about many topics. School, the kind of car we wanted to drive once we got our license, what we wanted to study after graduation from high school, everything we could think of. My thoughts, however, continuously jumped between the group's conversation, Aaron's attractive body, and his hushed invitation. Before long, it was 6 in the afternoon. The sun was already setting, so Sam suggested we start picking up in preparation of her mother's arrival. "Oh, I forgot. My mother is picking Isaac and me up later," said Aaron all of a sudden. I turned around and looked at him with an arched eyebrow because I knew he was lying. He didn't look at me as he continued to lie. "Actually, she's probably here at the lake somewhere. She brought my little brother since I did not want him to come with us." "How are you going to let them know where you are?" asked Mary. "I've got my father's cell phone with me," Aaron told her as he started tossing trash into the trash bin. We finished cleaning up the picnic table area when we saw Sam's mom driving up where she had dropped us off. Aaron walked around the table and stood next to me as we said goodbyes to the other 4. I gave a final wave as they drove off and then turned to look at Aaron. "Okay, so tell me what's going on." I was excited, but also scared and stumped. I wanted to know why he had lied, but deep inside, I knew. "Nothing, really. Just wanted to make sure that you were the only one that was coming over. My dad doesn't like a bunch of people over at one time," he explained. "Here, call your parents and ask for permission to come over before I call my parents to pick us up," Aaron said as he handed me the cell phone. "Thanks." I tried to catch his eye as I took the phone from him, and again when I looked up as the phone was ringing. "Hello, Mom? Yeah, we're just about done here at the lake. Is it okay if I go over to Aaron's?" "Yeah, Aaron said it's okay with his parents." Not sure, hold on. Hey Aaron, am I sleeping over?" I tried really hard to hide my anticipation of his answer. "Sure, We will give you a ride back tomorrow, he responded quickly, but his eyes were looking off to the horizon. Mom, yeah, I'm going to sleep over. Okay, I will. See you tomorrow. Bye. I ended the call, then handed back the phone. Okay, your turn. Aaron called, and just like he said, his parents were fine with it. However, before he hung up, he quickly added, "Come for us in 2 hours." I found that strange. Why 2 hours? Are they even here at the lake? No. Hey, I like to watch the sunset. It's a pretty cool sight to see. I want to see the sun reflecting off the water as it sets. Is that okay? He was so nervous, I stood there dumbfounded, but my body was vibrating with excitement. So much was unspoken, yet clearly understood between us. Still, I battled with the emotion. Why am I so excited? Why do I have the feeling that I know something is going to happen? I pondered. We talked about school and everything that we went through last year while we sat on the pebbly shore watching the sunset. I told him about Chris and his first day at elementary school. He snickered and appeared to picture how Chris must have looked that day. I told him how I defended Chris from Jose bullied him and how I helped him out the first day of school that past year. Aaron huffed and raised his eyebrows in disbelief. Then he said softly, "Wow, you're a good friend to him. I can't believe he would treat you the way he did this year after everything that you have done for him." Well, I guess peer pressure changes people. It's cool. I don't mind it. One day he will realize what a dumbass he is. I acted like I didn't care because I didn't want to tell sob stories at the moment. You said he was called maricón in elementary? Asked Aaron as he looked at me, then quickly turned away. Yeah, Jose would really pick on him sometimes. I explained as I picked up a handful of pebbles and let them trickle out of my hand. What does that word mean? I waited a beat to measure my words. I had no idea where this was going. It's Mexican slang for homo or fag. Do you think that he is? Aaron asked quietly. Nah, he is too much of a machista to be gay, I answered honestly, even though it made me feel uneasy. The truth is, I had never thought about it. What do you think about all that, Isaac? He turned to look directly at me. His blue eyes tried to read my mind. He was gauging my expression. About what? I asked, then looked away because my head was about to burst at the sudden turn in the conversation. Well, you know, about the gay thing. I turned and looked him straight in the eyes. Well, I guess to each their own. As long as you don't hurt anyone, then it's okay. There was a heavy pause, and then it was my turn to ask. What do you think about it? Oh, hey, look, he said as he pointed out to the horizon. The sun's going down. Isn't it beautiful? I just love the colors in the sky and how the sun reflects off the water. It almost looks like it's underneath the water. I didn't press for an answer because I had no idea what was going on beneath the surface of the conversation. I also didn't know my own response, and the sunblock episode had me questioning a lot of things. We sat there in silence and looked at the sky as it turned from yellow to orange to red-orange, and finally, dark blue. The stars started twinkling one by one. The city lights around us were muted, so within a matter of minutes, the night sky was full of stars. I risked a glance over at Aaron as he was still sitting up, and I couldn't help thinking to myself, why did he quickly change the subject when I asked him what he thought about gay people? Suddenly, as if he knew what I was thinking, he turned his head and looked me right in the eyes. My heart was shocked by the intensity of his gaze. I couldn't feel my face, my legs, nor my hands. Nothing except my heart thumping in my chest. You okay? He asked with a soft yet apprehensive look on his face. Yeah, he caught me off guard, and before I could stop myself, my desires spoke. I was just going to tell you to lay down next to me so you could see the stars. I said it impulsively. It was not my intention to be so intimate, but something in his eyes spoke to the budding feelings in me. When he laid back, our shoulders, arms, and hands made contact, which neither one of us broke. The stars that filled the sky no longer had my attention. I became aware that our pinky fingers touched, and I quivered. How can the smallest finger on our hands simply touch and be so arousing and transfer so much energy? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I so nervous right now? My mind raced, and I felt like I was running a mile. I had shaken Aaron's hand many times. We had even hugged a time or two, but tonight was different. Thoughts invaded my mind at the touch of his hand. I don't know what spurred me to move my pinky up and down so as to caress his. Like magnets, we turned to look at each other. No words came out of our mouth. We just laid there looking at each other's face, eyes, lashes, lips, jaws. Just as I was about to ask him, "What are you thinking?" Aaron's phone rang, and he sat up like a lightning bolt. I admired the nape of his neck as I sat up more slowly. I struggled to snap out of my desirous stupor after the moment we shared. "Okay, Mom, yeah, we will walk down the main road until we meet up with you." "Okay, see you in a minute," he stammered as he stood up and brushed little rocks and debris from his ass and legs. He turned to look down at me and noticed I was watching him dust himself off. I heard him take a deep breath, unsteady breath, and say, "We better get going. Mother is almost here, and we need to make sure she sees us." I nodded my understanding and stood up, trying my best to keep my gaze focused on anything other than him. We didn't speak as we ambled to the main road. Only the crunching of dried grassland and rock under our feet could be heard. I followed slightly behind him, trying to read his body language, but I was getting nothing, especially because I didn't know what I was looking for. We saw the headlights coming down the road, and he waved at her to make sure she saw us. Taking my cue from Aaron, I opened the back passenger side door as his mother started asking, "How did it go, guys?" "It was great. We played some games, swam, and ate some food. Mom, this is Isaac." "Nice to meet you, Isaac," she said as she turned the wheel to exit the lake area. Once she was on the main road, she looked back at me with a smile. "Nice to meet you too, Miss Smith." She gave me a sweet smile, then asked, "So does that mean you guys are not hungry?" "Are you kidding, Mom? We wanted to order a pizza and rent a movie," he laughed. I could tell he was tense. "How about I drop you off at the video store and you guys can look for a movie while I go and pick up a pizza?" Aaron agreed to this, so she left us in front of the Blockbuster. He opened the door for me, and it was all I could do to not give into I don't know what. We wandered around the store, stealing glances at each other, then slowly headed towards the horror section. Once we were there, we walked down the aisle, checking out the titles. We commented on some of them and laughed at others. Occasionally, our shoulders bumped as we tried to find the scariest movie. It was a sweet moment until we heard laughter and jeers behind us. From the corner of my eye, I could see Chris and Roger pointing at us. "We are being watched," I whispered to Aaron as he was reading the back of a clamshell. "Blow them off. They're trying to get a reaction out of us," Aaron said. His eyes never left the cover of the movie. After a while of browsing the covers and debating what to get, my curiosity got the best of me, and I looked around, attempting to spot them again. "I guess they left already," I whispered to Aaron once again, hoping they were gone. He looked around the store and said, "Yeah, I guess you're right. Hey, have you seen this movie yet?" Aaron asked me as he held up the plastic cover. "What is that?" I asked while I read the title. "It's called Threesome, and it's about 3 college roommates who share a dorm. 2 of them are straight, and 1 is gay. The gay guy likes the straight guy. The straight guy likes the girl, but the girl likes the gay guy. It's actually a funny movie. We should watch it," he said, without looking at me. "Okay, I will take your word for it, but that doesn't sound like scary to me," I said, mystified, as we walked up to the counter. the word gay ringing in my ears. We grabbed some popcorn and candy by the cash register to munch on during the movie. Miss Smith was already waiting for us outside, so we hurried to pay and got into the car. Back at Aaron's house, I met his father and little brother. His little brother was very sweet and loved to hug. "Dad, this is Isaac, a friend from school," Aaron introduced me. I stepped towards him and extended my arm to offer my hand. "Good evening, Isaac," he said as he looked down at my hand before he extended his to shake it. "Good evening, sir," I replied, feeling a little nervous and uncomfortable. I did not feel comfortable with his dad because he seemed very militant. I very quickly realized that a yes sir and no sir was expected when answering him. I could see Aaron had great respect for him and that his father liked it that way. All I wanted to do was shake his hand and get to Aaron's room. "So, Isaac, what do your parents do for a living?" My mother works at a title company where she is the supervisor of an index department, and my father is the manager of the import-export department for General Motors. I felt like he was expecting more. Was all he said as he walked away to some unknown part of their house. Once he was out of sight, I followed Aaron down the same hallway, and we entered his room where I couldn't help but ask, "What's with your father?" He scoffed and replied, "He was in the army. Did I not tell you that? He also went to military school before he enlisted. I guess he thinks that the military was good for him, then it will be good for his family. Don't worry, he really isn't that bad," Aaron explained, looking around his room, checking to see that it was clean and welcoming. "I guess," I said nervously, then added, "I feel stupid." "Huh. I don't know much about the military." I was grasping at words to hide my discomfort and the fact that I had maybe been a little disrespectful about his father's approach. In truth, I was freaking out about the entire chain of events. "Don't sweat it," he chuckled. "I'm going to the kitchen to grab some plates and drinks for us. I'll be right back," he said as he walked out of the room. I stood in the middle of his bedroom looking around. The bedroom is awesome, I thought to myself. The walls were painted a light blue silver, and the molding had a nice shiny white coating. I opened one of the doors that was off to the side. It seemed like I had stumbled into a whole other room. The walk-in closet was as big as my bedroom. Everything was in order. All his shirts were organized from short sleeve to long, and from lightest color to darkest. His pants were nicely folded, and his shoes were all in a straight line. There was another door adjacent to the closet. Just as I was about to open it, Aaron walked into the room. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Wow, this is your closet? My mom would love it if I were this organized," I told him as I stood by the door. "Well, I have to keep my room nice and tidy. If it's not, my dad will blow up," he said as he was looking into his closet. Suddenly, he focused on something out of place, extended his hand, and measured the distance between the hangers by placing a finger in between them. He took a deep breath, almost relieved, and with both eyebrows raised, he said, "I'm glad I caught that before my dad did." Not knowing what to say, I decided to direct the attention elsewhere. "What's behind this door?" I asked as I took it upon myself to open the door without letting him answer. I walked in what he called the entertainment room. It was furnished with 3 very plush sofas arranged in a U shape and a giant screen television. In the middle was an oversized coffee table. The room was huge and was equipped with surround sound. Aaron put the pizza box on the huge wooden coffee table as we prepared to watch the movie. I didn't understand why the movie was called Threesome, or what the word even meant. My first thought at the beginning of the movie was that it was about 3 strangers sharing an apartment, but that quickly changed as the movie carried on. I realized that the word had another meaning to it. Several times during the movie, I turned to look at Aaron and wondered what he was thinking, especially during the scene when 2 boys kissed. Would that be something Aaron would want to do? Is this why he chose this movie? I thought to myself. There were several times I had to shift position because of the excitement growing in my pants, and I was afraid Aaron would notice. I finally understood the true definition of the word threesome. That one scene was so intense that not only did I have to shift position, I also had to readjust a little. My face must have been all shades of red when Aaron turned to see what I was doing. Our eyes met for a few seconds before he turned to look at the TV again. After that happened, I tried my best not to move or bring any more attention to my crotch. The feeling in my stomach when Aaron caught me adjusting myself was not pleasant at all, but the thought of him looking at me was exciting. Once the movie was over, we sat on the floor trying to relax a little. I had moved to the floor and was leaning on the sofa. I exhaled and said, I'm so full, I told Aaron as I held my belly. After the 5 slices of pizza, a bag of chips, a cup of chocolate chip ice cream, and a candy bar, I could hardly move. Yeah, me too, he said as he held his belly and looked over at me. We both laughed at each other as we looked at our bellies. But that ended when I looked into his eyes and he into mine. Everything around us came to a pause as the room became silent, and in that moment I felt something in my chest that I had never experienced before. My hands got sweaty and my nerves began to go crazy. Just as the feeling began to intensify, we heard a knock at the door. That scared us both. Boys, don't stay up late. It was Aaron's mom coming in to check up on us. We won't, Mom, answered Aaron with what I detected as a shaky voice. Okay, I'm going to bed, said Miss Smith as she looked at both of us. Good night, Miss Smith, I said to her before she closed the door. It was late. I think we better go to bed. It's 2 in the morning, Aaron suggested. Yeah, it's been a long day. Fun, but long, I told him as I got up and started cleaning our mess. Aaron had a king-size bed all to himself, so we fit in it very comfortably. The room was pitch black and I was drifting off. You know, I hope that you and I become good friends like you and Chris once were. I trust and admire you. I smiled. Why wouldn't we be friends? I like hanging out and talking to you, I told him as I wondered why he would say that. I felt a connection with Aaron that night. It was like we were both put on this earth to be the best of friends. We talked until we fell asleep. I don't even remember what was said last. By the next morning, everything was a blur. I heard chirping, and when I opened my eyes, I saw a bird sitting on the window ledge singing. Just as I was about to sit up, Aaron asked, Did you sleep okay? Yes, I sure did, I answered him as I raised my arms over my head and stretched. This bed is so comfortable. How do you manage to stay in one spot? If this was my bed, I would be moving all around all night long. Miss Smith gave me a ride home later that day. Once there, I laid on my bed and thought about how the day before had unfolded. In the late afternoon, I played dominoes with my abuelo until it was time for dinner. That summer was one of the best summers ever. Aaron and I hung out almost every day. If I wasn't at his house, he was at mine. And most of the time, it was only he and I. I really got to know him. We even took driver's education class together and got our licenses at the same time. I must admit, I was glad that he was in the class too, because the instructor was one mean lady. It felt good to not be the only one she'd yell at or smack when we did something wrong. We had some good laughs over it that summer. Thank you for listening, and if you like what you heard, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for Chapter 5 of What Would I Do Without You. Until next time.